Hey, yo, welcome to late edition of the Joey Only Show, new channel I'm trying to build here on the YouTube. Please subscribe, trying to get to that 1,000. Go over to my other channel, Caribou Weather Dude YouTube there for your weather reports. All right, let's have a look at this War Tracker 24 website here. It's a great website, and it just talks about all the different stories that are going down today. March 3rd, fuel prices may rise again. Right? Of course, they're going to rise again. Oh, yeah, they are going to rise again. And, U.S. economy is in trouble. Yeah. Trade embargo threatened against Spain because Spain said, well, we don't want you to use our fighter jet. We don't want your fighter jets to land here. So you can't use Spain to attack Iran. So Trump says, we'll have a total trade embargo against you. Drone strikes against U.S. embassies in the region, which would be like, a month's worth of news any other time. We have the 4 U.S. soldiers killed today that were named. There's still 2 that aren't named. I think there's a lot more than 6 buried in rubble and stuff out there. They're not telling us everything right now. We don't know. Like, there's been rumors that ships have been attacked. Yeah, maybe not. To what degree of success, we don't know. Dubai's safe haven status breached by Iran's Gulf strike. Yeah, Dubai's been hit there. Rand plunges. Suspected Iranian drone strike near the U.S. consulate in Dubai. Set an explosion near a U.S. consulate in Dubai. They're under attack there. Other countries talking about capping energy and fuel prices amid Iran war. Starting to take some preventative action already. Iranian missiles strike the Al Udeid air base in Qatar. Iran claims that intelligence knows Netanyahu's March 3rd locations, and there was a report that they made an attack at his residence. I don't know if that's true or not. The fog of war. Will U.S. pull ships and missiles from China front? So they're leaving their allies in Japan and South Korea. They're going to pull some of the THAAD surface-to-air missile systems from South Korea and deploy them over for the Iran conflict. That's going to leave North Korea more of an open door for South Korea there. So that's a very concerning thing there. The U.S. is weighing tanker insurance to keep Middle East oil moving. That's concerning. I mean, you're not going to get through the Strait of Hormuz if they decide to shut it down without putting boots on the ground. There's no way you're going to do it. And I happen to have grown up in the 80s, and up the road, another farm was owned by Dave Shelton, who was a ship captain, and he worked for big money in the Persian Gulf during the Iran-Iraq war. Yeah, he did. So from a very young age, I've had a very good understanding, even before the Gulf War, when Dave would be gone for 6 or 8 months, come home, and then, he'd tell me all about it. I have to ask. I had to know everything. When you live like in a place like north of Madoc, Ontario, and your neighbor's a ship captain, and his kids were some of my best friends. Trump's ordering the U.S. Navy to escort tankers. Now the U.S. Navy's in the escort business. Then we have Iranian missiles that intercepted and debris scorched central Israeli streets. We had a drone strike, like I said, near the consulate in Dubai. The sparks made a fire that they said was contained. Syria deploys rocket units to the Lebanon border today. Also today, troops say that their commanders framed Iran war as God's plan. Go and see my video from this afternoon, please, on the channel here. All about that exact thing. EU asylum applications fall 20% as Iran crisis surge. Yes, it's day 4, apocalyptic, racial, never-ending holy war. Then the CIA station in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, was reportedly hit. Then the IDF says it destroyed secret Iranian nuclear weapons site, which may or may not have been a nuclear weapon site. Trump now rejects the claim that U.S. Was forced to do the strikes because Israel was going to do them first anyways. So suddenly they're backtracking on that statement from yesterday. This is all just stuff from today. Israel strikes secret Iranian nuclear development site. So they claim. Then Kashmir protests after Iran leader's death, claims that happened in U.S.-Israeli strikes. So there's protests now in Kashmir erupting. There's protests in Pakistan and all other places. I even saw protests today in Bulgaria. There was some big protests there. They're like right-wing racist protests, but nonetheless, they want the U.S. fleet of KC-135 air-to-air refueling tankers out of their country. They don't want them there. They say that are now at risk from Iran if they continue to use the U.S. uses their bases there. Iran's not allowed to go to the World Cup. Aww. Iranian strike at Kuwait's Shuaba port kills 6 U.S. service members is the report. 4 of them are named now. Trump cites debunked Iran nuke claim to justify U.S. casualties. Aluminum rose on concerns that a key supply route for Middle Eastern producers could be disrupted by conflict in a region that has a share of global output. The metal gained 1.7% to its highest level since January in the London Metal Exchange. UAVs, missiles hit U.S. bases in Bahrain, United Emirates, and Kuwait today. Trump's own open-minded Iran push risks U.S. economy and oil prices. Also today, United Arab Emirates grants emergency tourist visas after airport crisis. People are trying to leave and can't. The American government has told Americans to leave immediately. Meanwhile, global order is cracking, says Erdogan. Turkey won't stay neutral. And, of course, Israel has already said out loud that they want to take Turkey down as well. They consider Turkey a problem, who's a NATO, a European Union member. Kristi Noem was on the hot seat, meanwhile, today. Let's not even talk about her. Regime change war talked about by John there. And then U.S. envoy, Iran's enriched uranium could fuel 11 bombs, they say. That's what the U.S. envoy is claiming, even though Iran says that they were willing to make a deal and weren't interested in a bomb. They believe they have the technology already, apparently, to do what they need to do militarily in the region to ensure their own survival. I mean, Iran's been around for like 2,500 years. This is a country that is a civilization. It's not like, 249 years of America. So Trump's talking with the Kurds. He's trying to the CIA is even leaking we're going to go work with the Kurds and try to get them to fight against the Iranian government. And it's every time they just basically use the Kurds, throw them in the meat grinder, and then sell them out. Are the Kurds really going to want to do that? And way to put your strategy out across the entire world anyways. That's really reassuring. There's no evacuation aid in Israel for people, says the U.S. Embassy. They're urged to use this shuttle to go way north and use this shovel and drive out of the country and then try to cross the border and pay money to do it. So there's 700,000 Americans alone in Israel. Israel reinforces southern Lebanon border. They're talking about invading Lebanon now. Israel's talking about invading Lebanon now. MAGA is Trump. Carlson, Kelly have no impact on Iran policy, says Trump. Okay, sure. Pakistanis cross Taftan border as U.S.-Israel missile strikes chaos. And we have a real threat as Pakistan and Afghanistan are starting to fight each other. At least for now, they're fighting each other. How long do all these countries, have, engage in sectarian violence and then just decide to work together instead and get rid of Israel? Israel's actually opened the door to their own demise here. They've raised global economic uncertainty. Israeli strikes could lift oil, cause inflation risk. So they got together to vote on who's going to replace the Ayatollah. They've ended up choosing his son, who's even more hardline, well, at least more willing to fight, and but they got bombed while they're trying to have their big vote. So the U.S. goal and Israel's goal is to continue to kill their leadership so that nobody can actually lead them and negotiate and have signing authority. So it's not a peace plan to keep killing their leaders. Man, there's a lot. UK to charter Oman flights for vulnerable nationals amid Iran strikes. So UK's at least trying to get their people out of there. Tourists stranded in Bahrain as West Asia tensions escalate. There's no flights going in and out of that region, especially. There's some coming out of some southern areas here and bypassing the region altogether. But there's a big dead zone around Iraq, Kuwait, and, Iran, of course. Oil surges. India's in trouble. They are looking towards Russia for oil now, so they're giving Russia war money if they're going to do that. Jane Fonda slams Trump. Okay, well, whatever. UN Rights Office urges probe into Iran girls' school attack. And so all these kids were destroyed by the U.S. and Israel's attack. United Nations wants some answers. IDF strike kills Lebanon commander Abu Hamzi Rami in Beirut. Turkey seeks to end war that's going on in Iran. They want to open some talks there. Doesn't seem like there's any traction on that one. 30,000 flee Lebanon. Israeli strikes hit Beirut southern border. As you can see, there's a lot just on March 3rd alone. There's no proof Iran had nuclear weapons, says Lavrov. U.S. to extend Iran operations beyond 4 to 5 weeks. Now, Trump even said forever this morning. Yeah, it could go on forever. Iran drone strikes hit Riyadh embassy. Israel targets the Tehran regime today. Yeah, they hit the embassy in Riyadh. They hit the embassy in Saudi Arabia. Zelensky's worried that the longer this goes on, that the amount of air defense that he is getting afforded from the West is going to diminish, putting Ukraine more vulnerable, putting Europe more vulnerable. How do we suck Europe into a world war? There's the door right there. Israel hits Tehran, targets Iran's Quds forces, targets Hezbollah. Pakistan warns of Zionist plan behind Iran clash, risk to vassal state. Well, what if Pakistan gets involved and gets on Iran's side? They're a nuclear-armed state. Well, they're also enemies with Afghanistan now, but also enemies with India. France to bolster Cyprus with anti-missile, anti-drone defenses. They're going to put their aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle, down there. The Charles de Gaulle, and I believe they're going to put fighter jets closer in theater to defend their interests there. So France getting dragged in, even if they're not going to be on the offensive. They may take hits. Taliban says 8,000 Afghans displaced amid border clashes with Pakistan. Canada ridiculously backed the strikes on Iran. Shame. And, they want to put some distance against put some distance on that. Like, oh, well, maybe we were a little quick to speak. Like, yeah, you think, you might regret what you said later on. Drone debris hits Abu Dhabi complex, Israel embassy. Injuries reported. Mossad hacked Tehran traffic cameras to spy on Khamenei, reports say. Scary, scary, scary. Drones hit AWS data centers in UAE and Bahrain. So look at all the headlines today. It's endless. It's endless. There's so much news over what's going on. It's more than anybody could possibly hope to keep up with. Israeli airstrikes hit Gandhi Hospital in Tehran amid U.S.-Israeli action. There will end on that one maybe because the list goes on, but I think we hit most of the big ones today that happened, or at least a lot of the big ones. I mean, there is a lot of big ones. I got a few more notes I wrote here today. So U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, the new Ayatollah, Iran threatens to open the gates of hell, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, heard explosions nearby, Israeli kills dozens in Lebanon, CIA gets hit, and then also they have a weird Kurdish plan, and then the U.S. Embassy in Dubai hit as well. That's a lot of stuff today. A lot of stuff. Okay, please hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Joey Only show here, and then Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel is my weather forecasting channel if you want to go there. That's all for this episode. Talk to you next time. Bye.